So, Robert, how are you doing? And how's the March of Islam in Europe?
The March of Islam is doing very well, better than I am. It is proceeding very confidently. It is increasingly common to hear Muslims in Europe as well as in the United States boast about how they will eventually be taking over, and the European leaders, including Britain, they are all so avid, so desperate for Muslim votes that they are compromising their own country's integrity, cultural identity, history, and their own people. They are betraying in order to enable the Muslim conquest of Europe without firing a shot. After over 1,000 years of trying to conquer Europe militarily, now the leftist leaders of Europe have handed the continent over to the warriors of Islam without any military action at all. And by the end of this century, Europe will be an Islamic continent.
Do you see any pushback at all?
Yes. And as the successes grow, so does the pushback. We see the Alliance for Deutschland in Germany, Alternative for Deutschland, excuse me. We see the Restore Britain Party in Britain, and in France, it's the National Rally of Jordan Bardella and Marine Le Pen. In Sweden, they're the Sweden Democrats, although they've been compromised a bit with a taste of power that has led them to dilute their message to some degree. But nonetheless, there are efforts to push back all over Europe. And as the prospect of the actual conquest of the continent becomes more and more of a reality, and more people realize how deeply betrayed they have been by their own leaders, and how much in danger they are of becoming foreigners in their own homeland, there will be more pushback. So I said a moment ago that Europe will be Islamic by the end of this century. That's actually not my prediction, but that of the historian Bernard Lewis. Over 20 years ago, he predicted this. And I think he's right, but I think that the intermediate step between the situation that prevails now and an Islamic Europe will be a period of bloody civil war in Europe, where native populations that refuse to be Islamized will begin to fight back. I am not condoning this or calling for it. I'm predicting it. And I do also predict that because the left, which is in power all over Europe today, is in league with the Islamic forces, that they will strengthen their alliance against the patriots and brutally crush the uprisings, and thus pave the way for the victory of Islam and the Islamization of Europe. I hope I'm wrong about these predictions, but I expect that if you check with me in 2099, when I'm 137 years old, you will find that I'm entirely correct in what I have predicted.
Okay, that's too far into the future.
I definitely like the seriousness of the humor in your statement of 2099, but it is definitely a matter of concern. I think I concur with you that there will be an uprising, and as we all know, the left and the Islamists have one thing in common: they can drop to a street war literally at the drop of a hat.
Yes,
And
they're authoritarian. They want to cause dissent.
Yeah, and they will have no hesitation in killing people. That's their pastime.
Yes,
they are trained to kill people. Is the right ready for it? Or
no.
Is the right ready for it? What does it have to do? Where does the leadership come from? Because, as you earlier mentioned, the 4 or 5 names in Europe are completely submissive, completely given in.
Yes.
Islamism, if I may say so. Your thoughts?
So I would expect that the opposition will come the way it has come in Britain. In Britain, I mentioned Restore Britain a moment ago, and they're a small political party that has very little chance of electoral success. Larger than that is Reform UK, which many people have high hopes for, but actually the head of Reform UK, Nigel Farage, has already betrayed his people by saying that we can't make this into a conflict with Islam, and if we make it into a conflict with Islam, we will lose, which is incredibly defeatist and shallow and demoralizing for him to have said, when he could have said, we're going to stand up for our national identity and our national integrity and prevail against the invaders, which is what they are. He has a chance for electoral success, but I'm not sure it will make any difference in light of the fact that he does not intend to deal with the real problem, which is the Islamization of Britain that is very much on the horizon now, and more people are seeing it. So the real opposition, I would suggest to you gentlemen, is Tommy Robinson. Now, Tommy Robinson is someone I've known for many years. He's a working class lad from Britain who saw, as he was growing up in Luton, all the Muslim migrants coming in in increasing numbers until finally the native population became the minority and the Muslims are in charge. And he didn't want to see this happen to Britain as a whole. But he's not a politician. He's not a polished character. He is a man from the streets. And I suspect that if Europe has any hope for the future, it will come from people like him. In Germany, in Spain, in France, in Sweden, in Italy, there will arise ordinary people who would have led very ordinary lives if it had not been for this period of national crisis that calls upon them to come forward to try to save their people, save their nation, which is what is at stake here. What we're talking about when we talk about Islamization, you know very well from Indian history, and you can see it in the history of Egypt and the history of Syria and of Iran and other countries, that these were Afghanistan, which was a Buddhist country, Iran, that was Zoroastrian. These cultures were completely overwhelmed and eradicated. The Christian culture of North Africa, completely eradicated. In Egypt, the native people of the country are a tiny minority that is harassed and persecuted on a regular basis. And you know that this is what happened in India when the Muslims were ruling. The Hindus were not a minority, but they were made to put into the status, I should say, of practically a minority in their own country or foreigners in their own country and denied basic rights. And this is Islamic law. And so when it comes to Britain, when it comes to Sweden and France and the rest of them, the same thing will happen to the native people there. And I believe that it is from those people, from ordinary working class people, that any hope of pushback will come as well.